My daughter texted, Brandon would like a family weekend. I put down my teacup, looked at the picture of the three of us, and started a plan that no one expected. I let them know that they can't get everything they want. They need to learn to be grateful before they demand. Betrayal turns into revenge when justice comes from an unexpected direction, changing everything forever. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. The evening slid by like a dark river. I poured oolong into the ivory glazed cup Eleanor used to love and set it on a saucer with a moss green rim. On TV, a news channel replayed an old segment, the anchor's voice steady as a ceiling fan. The kitchen's warm light lit up drifting dust. The wall clock ticked, tock, tock, heavier than usual. I leaned back and let my eyes pass over the fridge door where an itinerary was stuck. Family trip, Yellowstone next month. In the corner, the deposit receipt was pinned and fluttered in the AC's breath. My phone buzzed on the table, the screen throwing a small block of light. The notification spelled out a line I read twice to make sure I hadn't misread. Marissa, Brandon prefers to have just his family this weekend. Dad, I think you shouldn't come. It's simpler. I set the cup down. Porcelain on wood made a dry click that rang once and died. The whole kitchen seemed to step back half a pace. The TV kept talking, but the sound felt like it belonged in the next room. I looked up at the photo on the shelf. Me, Eleanor, and Marissa. We'd taken it after graduation. Summer sun behind us. My jaw had softened under a smile. Eleanor tilted her head against my shoulder, and Marissa grinned until her eyes disappeared. Now the phone lay just below that frame, like a caption that read, "Just his family." I typed, "Did you text the wrong person?" Then deleted it. I called. 3 rings, 4. Marissa picked up, working to keep her voice soft. "Dad, how are you?" "Your text," I said slow. "It's about the family gathering this weekend, right? I've paid the deposit. I am your family." "Yes, it's a family thing," she said, then rushed. "But Brandon's side will have important guests, relatives, some aunts and uncles flying in. If you came, people would feel awkward. I don't want complications." "Why would I make anyone feel awkward?" I kept my tone flat. "I don't intend to speak. I won't take anyone's seat. I'll just be there." "Dad," she lowered her voice, that practiced rationalizing sliding out like oil, "don't make it harder. After this weekend, I'll set up a dinner for just you and me, okay?" "I pay my part by being there," I said, hearing each word land. "This is a family event. I am family." Rustling, then a man's voice cut in, polite enough to sound memorized. "Hi, sir, it's Brandon. I think for this weekend, the most reasonable thing is to keep it to my family. My parents have a few important guests. I hope you understand. The program, speeches, seating, it'll run smoother if you don't come." "Who counts as family?" I asked. "It's, you know, my side, immediate and cousins. Everything's already laid out. I paid the deposit." "Yes, and we appreciate that." He cleared his throat. "But for the sake of a smooth weekend, it's best." "I've heard enough," I said mildly. "Thank you for redefining family." "I understand." "Dad, please don't be upset." Marissa jumped back in. "We'll go out after. Let me keep this weekend tidy." "Sure," I said, cutting it short. "Tidy." I hung up. In the pocket of silence that followed, the wall clock struck as if next to my ear. On TV, a travel ad showed conifer forests and a mirror-flat lake, the kind of view I'd planned to take, the whole family to see next month. I slid lower in the chair until the backrest cooled my spine. Everything in the room sat exactly as it had 10 minutes earlier. The tea still steaming faintly, the tablecloth smooth, the fruit bowl with half an apple. But one thing had slipped off its axis, the definition of family. Disappointment moved through me like a small wave, tugging loose a few rooted pieces of memory. A powdery scent in my head pulled me back to Marissa's wedding morning. I was outside the church gripping Brandon's hand. "I'm entrusting you with my daughter," I told him. "Keep her safe. Be decent." He met my eyes and nodded. Eleanor tugged my sleeve and smiled. Her veil brushed my wrist, cool as a leaf. When the bells rang, I believed in a young man the way I believed in myself. Memory jumped to the first year after the wedding. One late night, my phone lit up. Dad, can he borrow a little until next month? I transferred funds the next morning. The next month, then the next. Silence. I nudged with a very soft line and got back a heart emoji. I told myself, that's what family does. And I let it go. Memory brushed the recovery ward, light as cold steel. The monitor ticked. Marissa stopped in for 10 minutes. She had to get back to work. Brandon called once to ask about the prognosis. Night wrapped me in a nylon blanket, tight and cold. The rolling hospital bed inched whenever a nurse passed. I reached up for a hand that used to be there, Eleanor's, enclosed on air. I exhaled, long and thin, as if I could file everything back into the right drawer. On the table, the tea had gone cold. I turned off the TV. The kitchen kept only the clock and the dishwasher humming through its dry cycle. I opened the tall cabinet, reached for the top shelf, and took down a black spine notebook labeled Invoices and Notes. The cover's edges were worn. The pages inside had puffed from old receipts stapled in. I flipped at random to the middle. My handwriting from a year ago, steady lines, transfer dates, medication costs, a slanted pencil note. Don't forget to buy your own birthday cake. I left my palm on that page a long time, like I was touching the backbone of my life, small things that keep a person upright. I closed the notebook and set it on my lap, staring at the dark corner of the kitchen where my reflection floated dimly in the oven glass. In my head, Eleanor said what she always did whenever I went too soft. Respect is rent to live in a family, Humphrey. I whispered, I remember. Then I set the notebook on the table, squared to the edge, a calming old habit. I tossed and turned that night. I got up for water, checked the clock, lay back down. The chill rose slowly, but inside it a new resolve took shape. Tomorrow I would start. Morning glazed the countertop in thin white. The coffee maker dripped, patient. Drip, drip. I cleared the table and set invoices and notes in the center. Slowly, calmly, I wrote only short lines. No names, no numbers, no details. Enough for me to know, vague enough to look like a shopping list to anyone else. Stop funding what disrespects you. Spell out the rules with the venue, word for word on time. Let the invoices speak instead of me. I shut the notebook and slid a fountain pen across the spine like a latch. Before I left the table, I looked at the fridge. The trip itinerary still there. Departure date circled in red. I stuck a small note beside it. On hold. Open when respect returns. I stood for a beat, listening to Jeff's leaf blower spool up and the corner of the neighborhood wake in slow motion. I lifted my mug and blew across the coffee. Next weekend, they'll have a family event. As for me, I'll have a different definition and a plan quiet enough to go the distance. I flipped open the old laptop. The screen came up as slowly as an old man rising with a cane. The phone rang. I hit speaker and set it by the window that looked out over grass still wet with dew. Hi, Dad. Brandon here. His voice was light, cheerful, calling to confirm the table booking and payment, like we discussed the other day. All set? I've handled it, I said evenly. Perfect, he exhaled and, per usual, added a coat of praise. You're always so thoughtful. My parents said without you, we'd be lost. I watched a sparrow bounce 3 steps, tip its head, then pop up to the roofline. I always pay my share, and that share includes me being there. Right, yeah. Brandon hesitated, thinking I'd made small talk. I'll resend the guest list. I'll forward the seating chart Marissa made. Oh, and there'll be a few important folks from my side this weekend, so help me keep things smooth, okay? Sure, I said, keeping tempo. Send whatever's needed. The call ended with a few quick thank yous. A beat later, my phone buzzed. Marissa sent one line with 2 heart emojis. Thanks, Dad. I know you're always so thoughtful. I pulled out a chair. The notebook lay open flat. With a highlighter, I drew 3 big columns and block printed the headers. Keep, pause, end. Under each, I listed rent, keep a portion, note, review end of quarter. New car autopay, mark pause. Tuition card, keep for now, conditional on grade report, set deadline. Authorized credit card, mark end, note, move to self-pay. Meds and insurance, keep but require invoices. I underlined each item with a thin line, added an effective date, and noted the payee. Sunlight slid along the chisel tip. A yellow flare ran the page's edge. A zip sleeve of receipts, shiro statements waited nearby, corners wrinkled. I unzipped, sorted by month, clipped them into the inside cover. From here, the notebook would harden into an evidence binder. The inkjet gave a small whir. I printed the party folder. The seating chart draft Marissa had shared slid onto the tray. I set it down, picked up a red pen, studied, then marked the blank where Dad should have been. I circled that empty patch the way you circle a pinhole in a line. Between the lines of ink, a shadow of memory crossed. The night after heart surgery, the monitor beeping steady, me counting those beeps to ignore time. People came and went like doors swinging in a corridor. Marissa popped in 10 minutes. Brandon called to ask the gist. I didn't blame. I just recorded. Same as I was putting numbers under pause now. The memory left the recovery room and dropped me back in this bright kitchen with coffee and fresh paper. I opened mobile banking. Recurring payments lined up. I tapped Brandon's car autopay. My finger paused a second, then hit schedule stop payment. The system asked for an effective time. I chose 12 noon tomorrow. A yellow warning box blinked. Are you sure? I hit yes. Scheduled stop payment appeared and sat there like a stamp. I took a screenshot and filed it in Binder evidence. A text from Marissa popped the same instant. Did you see the seating chart I shared? Isn't it pretty? I replied with a single, yep. She sent a smiley sticker. I set the phone face down, letting the outside world fall to mute. Back to keep pause end. Under authorized card, I added, end starting next billing cycle. Send certified mail notice. From the drawer, I pulled a stack of white USPS envelopes and laid them nearby. No addresses yet, just there as a promise to myself. Far off, a neighbor's mower came alive in the garage. The blade cut the morning like a green line across a page. I drew a breath. The lines were straight on paper, but the thing I was keeping straight was a boundary. The laptop hummed. New email. Brandon, guest list, final.sex. I opened, skimmed. The column swelled with his relatives and a few colleagues. I didn't hunt for Dad in any column. I just tiled the Excel window next to the seating chart and watched the two documents overlap like stacked negatives, my omission showing clearer. I opened a new email and typed, to Graham Porter, the Hawthorne Room, subject addendum, payment clarification. I wrote briefly, politely, in proper venue speak, hello, Mr. Porter, this is Thomas Hale, booking Warner Pike family and weekend. I'd like to add an addendum changing the payer under the host pays before service policy. I've attached scans of the contract Shashi receipt. Please share your earliest in-person time. I dragged in the scans, double-checked file names. Before sending, I flipped the notebook and double underlined my handwritten line, host pays before service. A stroke like barbed wire. No one crosses without scraping pride. Send. My phone buzzed. Marissa. Thanks, Dad. Everything feels so secure. Perry says you're always so thoughtful. My hand tightened unbidden. I replied, thoughtful means the right share. She sent a question mark, then a sticker hugging a heart. I let it sit. I went back to the aid ledger. Under keep for rent, I added a condition, monthly spend report required. Under pause, besides the car, I listed Zelle Venmo recurring, temporarily paused. I opened the apps, found recurring, paused each item, took screenshots. I filed them all in binder, evidence payments. I labeled each 2025-07 stopcarpay.png, 2025-7 plus Zelle, PNG, names tight, date stamped, mile markers along a road. While I labeled, the recovery room monitor re-entered my head. Beep, beep, steady. I saw myself staring at green dots that danced while no one stayed long. Back in the kitchen, the printer hiccuped and spit another backup seating chart. I stacked the two. The circled dad void now hugged the paper's edge like a little sinkhole in a bright room. I called the local bank via the hotline. The rep was clear, polite. Morningstar Bank, how may I help? I summarized the stop order and asked to confirm the noon effective time tomorrow. She verified a few security items, then said, "Yes, Mr. Hale, it's scheduled. At 12 are you washed, the system will automatically stop. I'll email confirmation." I thanked her. She closed with a line so procedural it sounded like a nail-set flush. "Today you are all set, sir." I opened sticky notes and typed 3 lines. 10 rider, Graham, 12 Varnar, stop pay, car, 3 call insurance, auto. I copied those onto a real sticky and stuck it on the fridge. Fat black marker so it couldn't be missed. The banking app chimed. I tapped, stop payment scheduled. Effective, 12 tomorrow. For a second, I shut the notebook. Not to put it away, just to lock an old flow. My eyes fell to the page corner where the highlighter still smudged. And for the first time that morning, I let myself look coldly. The plan had left the page. I set a USPS envelope on the scale, pulled the ruler, sketched their address, not mailing yet. I skimmed Venmo's again. Recurring showed paused. Each screenshot sat in the binder like a shard of glass. Bright, cool, reflecting a truth. Money flows where respect does. A bird thudded lightly onto the sill. I looked up as the laptop pinged. New mail. Subject, addendum. Payment clarification, Hawthorne Room. The body was short. You can come by at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Bring the contract. We'll prepare an addendum to change the payer. Graham Porter. I looked at the wall clock. The minute hand clicked 1 notch forward. I drew my pen and wrote the morning's last line. Tomorrow, lock the gate. Then I set the pen down, heard the mower shift gears in the distance, the printer go fully quiet, and the coffee cool by half. Small, ordinary sounds, but starting today, they were on my side. 12:01 is noon. The banking app chirped once, stop payment effective. The line looked like a cold stamp pressed into metal. I opened invoices and notes, flipped to a fresh page titled Call Log, and ruled 3 columns. Time, caller, mood and words. Before anyone could ring, I texted a short notice to both Marissa and Brandon. Effective today, all support is paused until there's respect. Essential items will be reconsidered after we talk like family. The text left. I set the phone on speaker on the wood table beside the open evidence binder. Afternoon light leaked through the blinds, dappling the paper. 5 minutes later, the first wave hit. 12:08. Marissa. Don't make this a thing, Dad. Are you trying to embarrass us? 12:10. Brandon. You're being unreasonable. We're days from a family event. I didn't answer. I just logged every word like an engineer filling in a spec. 12:17. Caller ID, Mrs. Pike, home. I inhaled and hit record on the little handheld I'd placed there. Mr. Hale? Her voice was razor thin, quick as a box cutter. I'll be blunt, this emotional freeloading ends now. You're old and out of touch. Don't tear things up just to get attention. I'm listening, I said even. Please slow down so I can note you accurately. Listen carefully. Don't ruin our family's day. Click. I wrote 12:19. Mrs. Pike. Insult keywords. Freeloading, old, out of touch. Don't ruin it. The file saved as 2025. Call Mrs. Pike, Dem 4A. 12:32. Caller ID, Mr. Pike, home. I kept record running. Mr. Hale, if you were a decent man, you'd know your place. Book it, pay it, and disappear. Don't bring that museum piece face and kill the energy. Noted, I said. Anything else you want on the record? Yes, don't expect respect for a few bucks. Family is on our side. My eyes slid to the 3-person photo on the shelf. A cold wick traced my neck. Click. I logged. 12:34, Mr. Pike. Decent man, museum piece. Don't expect. Family is ours. File 2, call 2, Mr. Pike, M4A. 12:50, Brandon. Tight as a guitar string. What are you doing? Paused everything. Car, card, transfers. You trying to corner us? I was clear. Support is paused until there's respect, I said, keeping my breath steady. Don't lecture me. We've got important guests this weekend. Just pay what you promised. My share, I said, includes me being there. A beat, then forget it. Stubborn old man. Click. I logged 12:53. Brandon. Corner, yes, don't lecture. Important guests, stubborn. File 3, call 3, Brandon, Dub 4A. By late afternoon, the room had cooled. I put on headphones and opened each file. I scrubbed and flagged 3 clips, 10, 20 seconds each. Freeloading, old, out of touch, don't ruin it. Mrs. Pike, 028, 047. Museum piece, family is ours. Mr. Pike, 019, 035. Corner us, don't lecture, important guests. Brandon, 021, 0039. I exported the clips, dropped them on a small silver USB, and labeled it, Calls, Pike Family. The printer pushed out a 1-page summary, call log, 3 recordings, with times, callers, keywords. I slid it into the binder right after the Payments tab. 3:15 p.m., I walked into the Hawthorne room at the Kingfisher Hotel. Graham Porter's office was neat. Glass desk, POS to the right, a rubber stamp parked in the corner. He stood, we shook. The faint ink and paper smell hung there. Mr. Hale, he nodded. I saw your email. Our concern is payment risk. I'm here to remove risk for both of us, I said, setting the contract and receipts on the desk. Cancel me as payer. Switch payer to Brandon Pike. Keep the booking and the timeline intact. Graham slid over an addendum titled Payment and Service Conditions. We read it together, slow and careful. Host pays before service. If unpaid by the stated time, service pauses until payment. 5 p.m. Day of. Venue will call host to confirm payment. 6 p.m. Service begins if paid. Prior deposit, refund to Thomas Hale within 1 to 3 business days. Venue holds a small prep authorization. Voided if host pays on time. Agreed? Graham asked. Agreed. I signed. He swung the stamp and came down once. Approved. I looked at host pays before service printed again in the addendum and drew one dark underline, thick enough no one could pretend they missed it. At the door, I added, low enough for just the 2 of us, I don't pay to disappear. Graham's mouth ticked. He understood I was paying my share, not my absence. 4:10 p.m., USPS, paste and gum and windowed glass. I laid down 2 certified mail envelopes, notice of support, suspension, and itemized schedule. Keep, pause, end. The clerk slapped on the green labels. The machine spit tracking receipts. I dotted a tiny square next to each tracking number with a marker and taped them into the next binder page. Mailed. 5:02 p.m. The banking app showed scheduled payments, paused, screenshot, filed to binder, evidence, sharp payments. I drew a bold line across the call log. 3 recordings, deploy if necessary. In my head, the options queued up. A, they pay, and the party proceeds. B, they don't, and service pauses. C, they call me. And I'll listen, but I won't pay in their place. As the light dropped, Marissa called again. I let it ring, then answered. Panic in her voice. What are you doing? His side is furious. Perry's mom says you've smeared their faces in the mud. I'm not arguing tonight, I said. On the day itself, I've scheduled a 5 p.m. call for the venue to confirm payment with the host. Stop with the word games, she snapped. I don't want to hear conditions. Everyone can see the condition, I said. It's printed on the contract. I heard her breathing go short, then a door slam on her end. The call slid from bargaining to blame, then to silence. I added 5:48 p.m. Marissa. Panic. Blame. That night, I sat at the table and put the headphones back on. I replayed the 3 clips, barely above a whisper, like rain. I didn't hear victory in the insults. I heard a line that had been drawn. Money follows respect, service follows payment. I shut the binder with one clean click. The laptop pinged. Email from Graham. Subject, addendum executed. Schedule confirmed. Body addendum signed and stamped. 5 p.m. call scheduled. Service at 6 hours if paid. GP. At the same moment, my phone lit with Marissa's post. 3-day countdown over a frosted cake. Family celebration. I looked at it a few seconds and set the screen dark. I opened the notebook and wrote one line, like locking a stage before final dress. Tomorrow. Lock the stage. Morning came cool. I pulled on the navy blazer, shined loafers, slipped the folded valet ticket into my wallet. At the Kingfisher Hotel entrance, A player piano dripped a soft jazz line while rolling suitcases ticked across stone. 10. Schwarzenegger. Graham Porter met me in the lobby and led me down the back of house corridor. White walls, stainless racks of stemware, the faint coffee breath of the staff pantry. We stepped into the Hawthorne room, dark wood floor, high ceiling, a 70 TV mounted on a bracket, PA and mic staged beside a skirted sign-in table. On the exterior door hung a small placard, private event. "Let's do a walkthrough, Mr. Hale," Graham said. Miles from AV was already there, shirt tucked, HDMI coil slung over one arm. Dana, the banquet captain, held a BEO clipped to a board. Miles plugged in. "Source HDMI 1, he called, thumbing the remote. The screen blinked hotel logo, then over to input. "Mic check," Dana said, snapping once. Clean ping, no howl. Back of house air rolled a steady white ribbon along the ceiling. I opened the evidence binder. First page, a photo of the "just his family" text from Marissa's phone. Next, the seating chart with the empty dad slot I'd circled red. "These two," I told Miles, "are backup inputs. Only throw them up if the other side denies." Miles nodded. "I'll build a mini playlist. Logo, SMS, seating chart, one hotkey, one press, and it's up." On the sign-in table, I set a framed A3 board. SMS on the left, the dad-less seating chart on the right. I stuck a small note to the glass. "Show only if disputed." Dana took it in, then nodded. Props staged behind the lectern. Invisible unless needed. From the binder, I slid out a fat envelope labeled "Open if disputed" and fed it into a slot at the back of the lectern. Paper made a soft slide. We left the ballroom for the manager's office. Glass desk, printer, POS, a wall calendar with big squares. One box read, "Pike 50th, 600 p.m. Graham opened a draft cue card for front desk banquet lead. Per the Hawthorne room policy, host pays before service. Today's payer is Brandon Pike. I nodded. Add, "You can pay at the POS at the rear door." Graham typed, printed. The machine fed and trimmed. He handed me a one-page BEO addendum, payment terms format. I read slow underlined "host pays before service" with a thick stroke. Donna ran the flow. 5:00 p.m. we call to confirm. If unpaid, kitchen or bar go to standby. 6 p.m. doors only open if POS is cleared. If they ask for a few minutes, I'll hold the doors up to 15, then pause service until cleared. "Good," I said. "Just run the policy." I signed under payment terms on the BEO. Graham swung the stamp and set a heavy, inky thud. Back in the Hawthorne room, we locked positions. POS at the rear door. Dedicated pre-auth outlet, Miles already tested. Spare linens rolled in the rack. A small sign-in table 2 paces off the lectern. TV sits on logo. Images are contingency only. Thomas waits in the staff lounge from 4:30. If disputed, Graham brings me out after the rule read. "F&B will brief staff no service before payment," Dana said, folding the BEO. "I'll also set a service hold in the system until POS clears." "Good." My finger skimmed the binder's edge and paused on the audio tab for exactly 5 to 7 seconds. Long enough to remember we only press play if they deny. Waiting on the elevator, my phone buzzed. Marissa's story. A cake spinning on a turntable. Pike family, 50. Below it, Brandon's mother commented, "Just family tonight." I let the screen glow in my palm, then went dark. "Invoices will do the talking," I said under my breath. "Just for me." In the lobby, the piano kept its hush. I grabbed a fresh valet ticket and pulled out. Shade from street trees tiled the sidewalk in light and dark like a chessboard. The pieces already set. That afternoon, Graham sent the approved script. His opening sat in bold, clean. "Ladies and gentlemen, per policy, the host pays before service. Today's payer is Brandon Pike. You can pay at the POS by the rear door." I reread the office timeline. 4:00 setup complete. 4:30 Thomas back of house. 5 hours call Brandon to confirm payment. 6 get open if cleared, otherwise hold. 6:05, 6 to 1:10. Graham reads the rule if there's friction. After that, serve only when POS is cleared. I left the hotel as the corridor lights came up. On the drive home, more countdown posts from the in-laws rolled in. Family celebration banner, clinking glasses, family underlined. I smiled thin. It'll all be clear soon enough. At home, I set the binder on the table and slid the open if disputed envelope behind the little lectern I'd sketched. Rectangle, arrow, strike through. Use only if needed. I checked the calls. Pike family USB, plugged it into the laptop, tapped each clip for a few seconds, then closed. Miles had said one press would fire. The rest was timing. The laptop pinged. Internal from Graham. Subject, 5-hour confirmation call scheduled. Staff briefed, no service before payment. Starred, filed in binder docs. Right then, a stray DM popped on screen. Evelyn Ward. See you tonight? I looked at the name once. No bell. I left it unread and shut the lid. The room dimmed a notch. The wall clock ticked past exactly 1 minute. I leaned back, inhaled, and let the quiet lock what needed locking. The tech, the procedure, my presence, and the exit path. Before bed, I checked the 3 fridge stickies. 10-hour walkthrough. Done. 5-hour confirmation call. Scheduled. 6-hour service. Only if cleared. I killed the kitchen light. The room pulled into a solid, held dark, like a stage locked tight, waiting for someone else to flub their line. 4:30 p.m. I was back of house. Folding chairs leaned against the wall. The stainless racks threw back a cool, blue-white. The evidence binder sat on my lap. My fingers touched the audio tab, then let it go. Miles poked his head through the door, flashed a thumbs up. Sound, TV, POS, green. I nodded. Dana walked by, eyes flicking the clock. We're on timeline. 4:09 p.m. In the manager's office, Graham put Brandon on speaker. Tone even, procedural. Hi, Brandon. Graham Porter from the Hawthorne room. Per the signed addendum, quick reminder of pay before service. Today's payer is Brandon Pike. You can settle at the rear door POS before 6:00 p.m. Noise on the other end. Brandon snapped low. My father-in-law already covered it. Graham kept the cadence. Final confirmation. Payer has been changed. See you at the POS. A beat. I'll come back there, Brandon said, and hung up. 5:30 p.m. Guests arrived. The lobby piano drifted. Inside, glassware ticked. A server holding hors d'oeuvres waited at the door for the go. The POS screen glowed. Ready. A red valet ticket peeked from Brandon's leather folio. The cake topper, 50, sat wrapped in plastic. 5:45 p.m. Graham stepped to the lectern. The mic popped once, then settled. Ladies and gentlemen, per the Hawthorne room policy, the host pays before service. Today's payer is Brandon Pike. You may pay at the POS by the rear door. A ripple went through the room. Back by the wall, a couple of Brandon's co-workers murmured, Isn't he the guy who bragged? Miles set his thumb on the clicker. Graham continued, To avoid confusion, we'll clarify the payer per the file. Click 1, full frame on the TV. The text screenshot, Dad, sorry, Brandon prefers just his family this weekend. The air caught a notch. Click 2. The seating chart zoomed. The red circled hole where Dad should have been. Low susurrus spread like small surf. Brandon half stepped out, rushed. That text got misread. We meant family table first. A clear woman's voice cut cleanly. The words were clear. Heads turned to Evelyn Ward. Deep blue dress, standing just off the TV. Rule of thirds perfect. I was sitting next to Marissa when she sent it. I asked, What about your dad? And heard her say, Just family. Mrs. Pike stiffened. Who are you to insert yourself in my house? A guest, Evelyn said, and a witness. Graham dipped the smallest nod to Miles and switched to neutral. Folks, we don't referee family, but to keep process transparent, at Mr. Hale's request, we're going to display payment support confirmations, numbers redacted. I'd already handed Graham a USB with binder evidence and payments. Click 3, ledger slide and keep pause end. A scan of my notebook appeared. 3 columns, keep run pause, end, showing house, Brandon's car autopay, the add-on credit card, Zelle Venmo recurring. Account numbers blacked, only labels and condition notes visible. Date and my signature sat in the corner. The murmurs shifted tone. This wasn't a drag. It was procedure. Click 4, stop payment scheduled. A banking app screenshot, stop payment scheduled. Effective, 12:01 tomorrow. Timestamp, noon yesterday. Graham summarized like he was reading a BEO. This is the stop on the car autopay, noticed in advance by certified mail. Condition to restore, respect in the supporter's presence at family events. Click 5, recurring pause, Venmo Giselle. Black and white capture of recurring. Paused payees gray boxed. Graham. Small transfers paused pending agreement on treatment. The restaurant didn't ask for this. It's Mr. Hale's private documentation. Click 6, USPS certified mail. 2 blue tracking slips, numbers side by side. Graham. Certified notices for support suspension and the itemized schedule. To avoid misunderstandings, all redacted. In the warm room, paperwork cooled the temperature, dragging the argument onto the flat plate of process. Noticed, conditioned, time-stamped. I stayed in the wings, hand off the audio tab. Miles glanced a question. I shook my head. Audio was for if someone said, "We never disrespected you," or "You made this up." Not yet. Brandon's eyes skittered. The red valet ticket looked louder against the folio. He sputtered, "This is a private matter, not relevant here." Graham, gracious. Exactly. Private. Which is why here we apply a single public rule. Host pays before service. He turned back to the mic. There are 2 options right now. Apologize and correct. Affirm dad is family and pay at the POS. Or we hold service until payment. Dana floated a palm, staffed by muscle memory held. A co-worker near the back whispered, "This is actually fair." I stepped out 1 pace. Enough for eyes to land and move on. No mic. 1 line, with the floor's wood carrying it. "I don't pay to disappear." I stepped back as if I'd never been there. Evelyn watched, not judging, just recording. Mrs. Pike tried to haul the anger upright. "Mr. Hale is old. Tradition is still the paternal side." Graham closed every loop, tone as neutral as a stamp. "POS is just through the rear door." Miles returned the screen to the hotel logo, not rubbing noses, just enough. The POS chirped ready. Brandon walked toward it, shoes clicking dry on wood. He slid his card half in, froze. The red valet ticket slipped from the folio and skated onto the carpet. Marissa caught the mic. "Before we pay," her voice shook but held. "We're sorry." She turned to the room. "My dad is family. Just his family was wrong and mean. Tonight we'll pay for our own event." Evelyn said softly to the nearby rows, "Words have receipts." A few nodded. Brandon pushed the card into the slot. The POS went beep beep. Processing. Servers in the aisle held their breath. A tray of hors d'oeuvres tilted a degree, then steadied. Co-workers craned. "Is he actually paying?" Marissa kept the mic. She swallowed, eyes passing co-workers and landing on me. "We're sorry. Dad is family. Just his family was wrong and mean. Tonight we pay." Brandon stood at the machine. A flicker. He fed the card again. Beep, beep. Processing. The room drew taut as a string. Dana kept the team at ready. Miles left the TV on logo. No more face rubbing, just let the rule hang. Beep. Approved. The receipt chattered out. Graham nodded. "Thank you, Mr. Pike." He lowered the mic, angled a small look toward the wings. "Welcome, Mr. Hale." Dana dropped her hand. "Service. Go." Kitchen doors breathed open. Hors d'oeuvres spilled like water through a valve. Servers glided the corridor. The clink of plates returned to its ordinary rhythm. Left side row, Brandon's parents stood rigid, faces gone dim. In the corner, someone whispered, "The invoice settled it." Evelyn dipped her head, gentle, to the cluster near her. "Words have receipts." I closed the binder's audio tab. No need to play it. I slipped back into the wings. Under the room's music, a quiet thought surfaced. I pay my share by showing up. They just paid theirs, with an invoice. The party warmed and let out a long breath, but I knew the real ledger, between people, had only started to tally. The receipt was still warm when Dana dropped her hand. Service, go. Trays spilled into motion. The soft clink of plates found its old rhythm. Graham bowed to the room, then gave me a small signal toward the manager's office. On the glass desk, the printer rollers were still hot. The slip that said approved lay face up. He clipped it into the evidence binder right behind payments, stamped it paid, the Hawthorne room. Thank you, Mr. Hale, Graham said, matter of fact. Noting, payer, Brandon Pike, paid before service. I'll witness the receipt. He signed Graham Porter, then handed the binder back. Incident closed, per process. Out in the hall, the mic had returned to the band. The room warmed, conversation pivoting to the menu instead of the drama. Marissa was waiting at the rear door, searching for me with her eyes. I stopped at the threshold, close enough to hear, far enough to avoid a consoling hug. I disrespected you. I'm sorry. In front of everyone, she said. No mic this time. I nodded. Tomorrow, Tinware at my place. We set boundaries. Yes. She sounded worn and sincere. Brandon arrived a beat late, awkward. Thank you for keeping it by the book. I kept it by the boundary, I said. Tomorrow. They both nodded. The kitchen table, 10 a.m. next day. The kettle clicked. On the wood table, I laid out boundaries agreement. Final, 2 hard copies, clipped and page numbered. Beside them, the fountain pen I use for things that matter. The Yellowstone itinerary on the fridge now wore a yellow sticky. Temp locked. Open when respect returns. Evelyn Ward arrived on time. Sharp coat, a smile that didn't overdo it. Want me as an independent witness? I want someone who will look straight, I said. She nodded and took the chair marked witness. Marissa and Brandon came next. Both looked short on sleep. Unlike last night, their voices were quieter and truer. I poured tea. No pastries, no strawberries. We weren't here to soothe. We were here to draw lines. I slid the agreement to the center. Slow read, I said. Oh, 1 clause at a time. No fog. Clause 1, money I read. No cash support under disrespect. Any support, if any, must name purpose, amount, deadline, and conditions. No last-minute asks. No just a quick loan. Marissa nodded. Brandon swallowed. I added an attachment. 2 old loans. Dates, amounts, notes. Zelle on the 15th each month. Amounts X and Y for 12 months. If a payment is missed, remaining support auto-paused. Brandon glanced at Marissa, then said, Agreed. Good, I said. So no one has to chase. I've already built the Zelle schedule. Each transfer will read, repayment, 1, 2, month and 12. Screenshots go in the binder. Clause 2, time I pointed to the bold line, standing visits every 2 weeks, 90 minutes at my house or a neutral spot. No call, and it happens. No drop-ins unless it's medical. Marissa asked, can you flex if our shifts change? Flex with notice, I said. If you reschedule, do it 48 hours ahead. 2 consecutive no-shows. Pause 1 support cycle, if any. She exhaled. Agreed. Clause 3, contact in public. I read each word clean. No posts that erase or exclude me on social media. Family photos with me require consent before posting. No quoting private words out of context. Apologies must be to the right people, in the right room, not vague status updates. Brandon's mouth trembled at the corner, but he didn't object. Agreed. And, I added, last night's promise, paying for your own events from now on, goes in here. No rallying a dad float with, we'll settle up later. Marissa struck a mushy phrase and wrote, any event hosted by our household will be paid 100% by us. I nodded. Exactly. Clause 4, reimbursement and review. I tapped the last lines. Repay the 2 past loans, amounts and schedule listed. At 30 days, we meet to audit compliance. At 90 days, we consider removing temp locked from the itinerary, if respect holds. Marissa said, I'll book family therapy next week. I scribbled a small note. Therapy, optional, recommended. We read the whole thing once more. I passed the pen to Marissa. You first. She looked up, eyes wet, not pleading. She signed, steady. I slid it to Brandon. He signed, lingered at reimbursement, then laid the pen down and exhaled like setting down a brick of pride. Evelyn signed witness. No commentary, Just straight eyes. I signed last. From here on out, respect is the rent you pay to live inside a family. I could hear Eleanor behind me, the line she'd carried me with down the last slope of our life. I clipped both copies into the binder, handed them a set. If you want extra social weight, the UPS store can notarize this afternoon. Not required, but smart. Brandon nodded. I'll do it. Silence passed, easy as breath. The kettle sighed. A strip of sun lay warm across the table. Dad, Marissa said, I want to put a lunch on the calendar for 30 days out. Nothing fancy. The diner on the corner. Compliance check. Send the invite, I said. I pulled out my phone and made one. Family check-in. 30 days, 12:30 p.m., Ada's Diner. Guess, Marissa, Brandon. Note, bring proof of Zell's schedule and attendance log. I stood and went to the fridge. I peeled off the yellow sticky and replaced it with one in marker. Temp open. Review in 90 days. I didn't pull the trip. I set a latch on the door. Brandon put his phone on the table. The screen showed Zell, scheduled 15th, X 15th, Y. He held it out. Set. Good. I snapped a screenshot, emailed it to myself under repayment. Proof of schedule, printed a black and white and filed it. Brandon hesitated. I would like a private apology. No cameras, no one else. You'll have it, I said. After 30 days, if you keep the agreement. He nodded as if a knot had loosened. Marissa gathered cups and rinsed them. Small, right work. No movie-ending lines. Just adults doing what boundaries require. The door eased shut behind them. Evelyn lingered a beat. You didn't need the audio. I only needed receipts, I said. She nodded. Words have receipts. Then she stepped down the stoop. Leaves scraped the sidewalk like a soft period. I looked up at the three-person photo. I lifted the frame, wiped the thin dust, and hung it straighter. I didn't erase memory. I redrew the line. The evidence binder closed with a small thock. The pen went back in its box. I grabbed my coat and the binder and walked to the corner. Book club at the top of the hour. Outside, the sun fell like thin paper, and I felt light, the way you do after you change out a lock that sticks. My phone hummed. Marissa. I booked family therapy next week. I'll send the calendar. I starred the message but didn't rush a reply. At the door, I set the deadbolt one more time and let my steps go easy. The new latch in me sat quiet, not to slam things shut, but to open at the right time.